This week, how to eat more plants. Part 1. But first, I'm Quinn Emmett, and this is Important Not Important, science for people who give a shit. And my goal, as always, is to help you answer the question, what can I do? Hit subscribe right now to get this essay and my conversations with the world's smartest people every single week. As always, you can find the email version and links to everything at Important Not Important or right in your show notes. And now, let's answer today's big question, how do I eat more plants? First, Rob, you know which Rob, I owe you an apology. Approximately 600 months ago, you asked me for ideas on how to nudge your family in more of a plant-forward direction. And as is typical, at least for me, your email was so goddamn important to me that I never made time to actually respond to it. Good news, though. So many readers loved and responded to my Why I Don't Eat Animals post from last year and constantly write in asking about food-related topics that we decided to turn it into a whole thing because, if you're trying to answer the question, what can I do? And it's how do I eat more plants? We got to write how to eat more plants. So today's is part 1, more of a macro introduction to the why and the how of the eat more plants and consequently fewer animals lifestyle. Deep dives on how to eat fewer animals by type, including meat, beef, pork, chicken, turkey, dairy, and fish, and of course humans. Can't forget humans. Those will follow in subsequent posts. But my overall goal is to help you, someone who already gives a shit for one reason or another, understand why eating more plants and fewer animals is intersectional as hell. It's great for the climate. It's great for your health. It's great for animals. It's fucking delicious. It's easier than it's ever been, and it's definitely easier than you think. That said, without a proper guide, the road can be treacherous, as various hobgoblins lie in ambush, including highly processed plant-based foods that may either just be bad or actually terrible for you. 2, even more misleading product labels like natural, which means nothing. 3, actual plant-based foods with little nutritional value, like almond milk, or that are mostly sugar, like Oatly. And last, greenwashing by and for industry groups in promotion of eating animals. Anyways, for each animal family, I will provide not only the context for the why, but also tiers of the what, the how. And I'm going to do that with beginner, intermediate, and expert. I will share with you the easiest ways and my favorite ways to make plant foods at home, if it requires any prep at all, my favorite ways and places to eat out, tricks, tips, all kinds of other action steps you've come to expect from us here, except more delicious. If there is one rule to rule them all, it is this. Eat as many different colors of actual plants as possible every day. The oceans will thank you. Less heat to absorb. The atmosphere will thank you. Less methane. The soil will thank you. More varied crops. Your immune system will thank you. Less antibiotics in your food. And you better believe your gut and your poop will definitely thank you. I'm telling you. You have never, ever had poops like plant-based poops. As you'll discover, this one rule is both crystal clear and a bit of a choose-your-own adventure sort of thing. Because while I have a long and cherished experience absolutely drowning mushrooms and Brussels sprouts in olive oil, salt, and pepper, and then broiling them to within an inch of their lives, you may have never eaten either of these, or already prefer like a few gallons of hummus, or peas, or tofu, or grilled squash, roasted cauliflower, or the world's greatest and one of the most versatile foods, sweet potatoes. Or you might not have any fucking idea yet, and that's why you're here, which is also great. Never fear. While some rules, like the one rule, are made to achieve 80-20 outcomes, to make it easier on you, there's also some gray area to explore, and that's where most of my sort of beginner tier will go. For example, subbing in Beyond or Impossible burgers for ones made of cows. Are they good for you? Of course not. Are cow burgers worse in every conceivable measure? Yeah. Can you cover Beyond or Impossible or whatever burgers in sauteed mushrooms and caramelized onions to the point where they taste exactly the same as the meat ones? Yeah, you can. My goal whatever level you're at, will be to meet you at the intersection of 1, where you are, and 2, what is most important, which is simply, for you and for all of us, to eat way less fucking meat. But why? We'll go into more detail for each animal group, though not too much. Again, you already give a shit. I'm just giving you more varied reasons to support your little quest. But there are 3 main categories that make eating animals, what we call a threat multiplier, and eating plants chock full of tasty co-benefits. So the first one is climate. Look, we have a hell of a lot of people to feed, more than ever before. Yes, we might peak in the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years at 10 billion or so, but that's a different story problem. We use almost 40% of the Earth's land surface to grow and produce food for the 8.1 or whatever billion people we have now, and to feed our animals. Now, land, as you may recall from geography, is only 30%-ish of the planet. Shout out to the ocean. So there's not as much to work with as you think. Obviously, we get a lot of food out of the ocean as well. Anyways, our food system also requires an astronomical amount of water, much of which the meat industry poisons. And while the Green Revolution saved and improved billions of lives, making food is now responsible for a full 1/4 of global greenhouse gas emissions. From our friends at Project Drawdown. If we consider the larger food system, including emissions associated with food waste rotting in landfills, plus emissions from cooking, refrigerating, processing, transporting, and packaging food, the total emissions from the food system rise to 34%. That makes food the single largest emitting economic sector, larger than power generation, industry, transportation, or buildings. Now, looking at this, you can understand how eating more plants and way less meat is maybe the perfect intersection of what can I do and what do we need to do. It breaks down every personal versus systemic barrier that I fucking hate. Here's more from Project Drawdown. A whopping 75% of all agricultural land is used for grazing animals or growing animal feed, including most of the world's corn and soybean production. Our intense consumption of meat and dairy products is by far the most significant driver of food's enormous geographic footprint. Now, before you go into it's the food transport, you should eat local, that's great. I love the farmer's market, which is like outside my door here. But no, that's disproven. Here's the thing. Because people who are not subscribed to these essays in whatever form fucking hate being told to eat less meat and or drive smaller murder trucks, we have far fewer institutional options for reinventing the industry like we do for, say, fossil fuels. You can't win votes by banning meat, obviously. So it's on us, which honestly is pretty refreshing because eating more plants and less meat is among the most impactful things we can do for ourselves and our communities too. So category number 2, your health. It's not actually just about eating less meat, however much meat is the final boss, and however much colon cancer rates are on the rise for younger people in the US. It's about eating real food, whole foods that mostly come out of the ground. So fewer animals, but also less ultra-processed food, as we're calling it. So is the jury still out on how bad ultra-processed foods are for you? Are paleo diets the answer? Of course not. Don't be a moron, please. But who cares about any of that shit? It's noise. Because we're pretty sure that eating what everyone's calling a planetary health diet, basically the Mediterranean diet, will go a long-ass way towards a livable planet and a more livable you. And the receipts are beginning to come in. From the Los Angeles Times, a Harvard team created a planetary health diet index, which quantifies the degree to which a person's diet adheres to the goals put forth by the commission. There are 15 food groups, and people were scored on a 5-point or 10-point scale for each one. The maximum possible score was 140, which would signify a perfect alignment with the ideal eating plan. The researchers assigned PDHI scores to more than 200,000 people enrolled in the Nurses' Health Study, the Nurses' Health Study 2, and the Health Professionals Follow-Up Study. The 20% with the highest scores were 23% less likely to die for any reason during the study period. They were also 14% less likely to die of cardiovascular disease, 10% less likely to die of cancer, 47% less likely to die of a respiratory ailment, 28% less likely to die of a neurodegenerative disease such as Alzheimer's, and 22% less likely to die of an infectious disease. Now again, socioeconomic factors, all of that stuff. But not only are you less likely to die from 40 different things, the vegan cat's out of the bag. Going plant-based can also help you get swole. You can get the protein. You can get a lot of it. Okay, great. So what's the problem here? Groceries of any kind are still expensive as hell, and food companies do not want you to buy plants. And most of us have no idea how a healthy gut really feels. With a few exceptions, this is how we've been eating our whole lives. Do you remember Velveeta? High blood pressure, got it. Digestive issues, shitty sleep, fucking weird skin stuff. Are you terrified of future cognitive issues? Welcome to the party. This is American guts, at least. The water is warm. It's come to my attention that it's not a great metaphor anymore. Also applicable, a rising tide lifts all boats, cooking with gas, and a bunch of others. Anyways, the other reason you've never really had a healthy gut, besides industry lobbying, is because medical school offers extremely scant nutritional education, which is wild, because food is what we put into our body to survive? Question mark? Hey everyone, it's Quinn, your host and the founder of Important Not Important. I'd like to take a quick minute to tell you about the INI or INI, whatever we're calling it these days, membership and community. It's a gathering place, really, for our most dedicated shit givers, a place to connect and learn from one another and to have access to me outside of the newsletter and this podcast. We started it last year, and it's grown to hundreds of shit givers from all kinds, from around the globe. I'm talking about teachers and investors, students, electricians, journalists, artists, scientists, and policymakers, and more. Members get exclusive access to our daily news homepage, which is very cool, and to much more top-of-mind weekly articles, research, and tools that you can use and to stay ahead of the game, member-sourced action steps, twice monthly book and culture recommendations that have nothing to do with the end of the world, virtual events, and of course, the membership Slack channel. Look, so many people come to us asking, what can I do? And we think we do a pretty good job of answering that question and providing context for the answer. But the best answers and the best perspective really come from the community, a wide-ranging community. And we would love for you to be a part of it, to feel supported yourself, and to contribute to discussions and actions alike. And of course, by becoming a member, you're directly supporting our work here and ensuring that we get to keep doing it. So if you'd like to learn more, head to importantnotimportant.com. And if you're already a reader, you can just hit the upgrade button at the top. If you're not, go ahead and subscribe for free, and you'll see the option to become a member at whatever level works best for you. And as always, you can always find the link to become a member right in your show notes. So thanks for listening. And as always, thanks for giving a shit. Back to the show. Anyways, we'll go into specific details more in later specific posts, but while a plant-based diet isn't going to make you invincible, transitioning into one can do a lot to reduce your susceptibility to our biggest health issues. Quote, in one study published in 2018, researchers assessed nearly 26,000 women and found that those who followed the Mediterranean diet most closely for up to 12 years had about a 25% reduced risk of developing cardiovascular disease. And this was mainly because of changes in blood sugar, inflammation, and body mass index, the researchers reported. Is a plant-based diet or Mediterranean diet or planetary health diet as affordable as it should be? No, of course not. We always subsidize the fucking dumb stuff like fossil fuels. But the really healthy stuff, like legumes, are more affordable than you think. And ounce for ounce, plant-based protein is usually as or more affordable than the animal version without the heart attacks. And remember, The indirect costs like ambulance rides are always worth accounting for. Third main category is animals. Again, details in later posts, but we know that most of our antibiotics go into cows and pigs, but we aren't super inclined to really track down the real number, and most of our poultry has been bred, drugged, and fed to be so heavy that they can't actually stand up on their own legs. We've basically never understood how much we're really overfishing the ocean until satellites now. 4, while it's already not great to have to ask, are we running out of tuna? It's another, I think, morally, to so frequently grill things like octopus, like the second smartest animal on the planet. So whether you believe in the Dominion bullshit or not, there is no doubt we have exploited our planet's incalculably precious ecosystems about as far as they can tolerate. We have to do the math, accept responsibility, and begin to right the ship for everyone involved. There's a wonderful new book called Becoming Earth, a podcast probably right in your player, just came out with the author. And the author, Ferris, writes, when we learn to see our species as part of a much larger form, as members of a planetary ensemble, our responsibility to Earth becomes clearer than ever. Human activity has not simply raised global temperature or harmed the environment. It has severely imbalanced the largest living creature known to us, pushing it into a state of crisis. The speed and magnitude of this crisis are so great that if we do not intervene, Earth will require anywhere from thousands to millions of years to fully recover on its own. In the process, it will become a world unlike any we have known, a world incapable of supporting modern human civilization and the ecosystems on which we currently depend. We must simultaneously acknowledge our disproportionate influence on the planet and accept the limitations of our abilities. Look, one action step isn't going to solve everything. Beyond Burgers aren't going to do it. But eating more plants and fewer animals for yourself and in aggregate is really among, if not the most impactful steps you and your community, your family, whatever your workplace can take to feel better, to reduce emissions, save some animals too. There's more to come. Here's your relevant action steps. Number 1, donate to Friends of the Earth to help transition our food system into one that is more sustainable, healthier, and more just. 2, volunteer with Kiss the Ground to help shift policies and resources towards regenerative agriculture. Number 3, get educated about more ways to eat more plants by subscribing to Vox's Meatless newsletter. Number 4, be heard about passing a strong farm bill that provides critical funding so farmers can grow nutritious food via sustainable farming practices. And last, invest in sustainable farming with Farm VC. That's it for this week. If you've got feedback, questions, opinions, send them our way. Email them to questions@importantnotimportant.com. And of course, hit subscribe to get next week's issue straight to your feed. To go deeper, just hit up importantnotimportant.com. And thank you for giving a shit.